Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is looking at not how, but why did Trump win the election last night, and why the rest of the world politicians should sit up and take note on what's actually going on. So last night it was predicted it was going to be a very tight election. That doesn't appear to have happened. But nobody was definite that Trump or Harris were going to win. Everybody thought it was going to be a lot tighter than it actually it turned out. And a lot of people were guessing how will first voters vote, how will black American males vote, how will Muslims in America vote. And they kind of got it wrong. That's where the big differences have came, how all these types of people that they try to put into boxes would vote. And it was as simple as this. More Americans decided to vote for Donald Trump than Kamala Harris. But it's the why that I'm interested in. But the results, they're not finished yet, but he's already over the 270 minimum. And it's weird that these results are declared by news outlets. So some of the results will be a foregone conclusion. They're just waiting to get officially shouted by an outlet, and then it kind of counts for some reason. But he's in 276 just now, with 1, 2, 3, 4 still to declare. And those, he's winning all of them. So although he's sitting at 276 out of the 270 required, he'll end up with about 310 plus. Right? Smashed it. And the popular vote, because of the way the Americans vote with the collegiate votes, where each state gets an amount of votes and they turn into votes at their parliament. You don't have to have the majority of votes to be the president. Indeed, the last time Donald Trump was the president, he actually lost the majority vote. That's just the popular vote. That's just counting the total votes in the whole of America. And he lost it by about 2 or 3 million. But he became the president. And in the last election, which he lost, I'm sure he lost the popular vote by about 7 million. Right now, he's on 5 million up. So he's, in essence, made 12 million people in America vote for him as opposed to the opposition that what happened the last time. That is just mental, right? And it's a why. Now, I don't think it would have made any difference, the colour of Donald Trump's rosette. If he was a Democrat, which I believe he was at some point in his life, and he'd been an ex-Democrat president, and he was looking to regain the White House as a Democrat, and we'd had a shitty 4 years, I think we'd have seen the same result. So what does that tell us? Is it just the personality? That's got something to do with it. Is it the policies? That'll have something to do with it. But it's just people getting bored and fed up with politicians. And career politicians at that. Donald Trump's not seen as a politician. He's seen as a businessman that's in politics. And that's quite unusual. He's not been a career politician. He's been known for other things. So why are people voting for him? Well, I believe it's a failure of the system. And that system is where the vast majority of governments, if not all across the world, are run by career politicians. And the people on the ground have had enough. They don't trust them anymore. So what I think's happening here is, see the policies that people stand on. I don't genuinely believe in the majority of cases that is the policies that they believe in. What I believe in the world, the whole political sphere across the globe, these policies are not decided by what these individuals or their parties think is best for the people. It's what they think is best for their supporters, which are normally financial, or what's not the least worst for their supporters. So that's why I think there's so many people going, well, the Labour Party aren't really Labour anymore, and the Tories aren't the Tory anymore, and the Democrats aren't the Democrats anymore, because they're not following and building policies based on their ethoses and the traditions of their parties anymore. And I think you could probably say the same in the United Kingdom, and you could probably say the same across most of the Western world. So it's not the political ethos of the parties that's deciding policies anymore. It's the political will of the people who are funding these parties and, in America, politicians. I mean, there was billions spent on that election campaign. Somebody gave the figures. I sat up all night. It was about 7 o'clock before I went to my bed this morning. And once the result was sort of guaranteed, I started flicking between a lot of the American channels just to actually see the reaction by some of the most left woke media outlets that we have. And one guy, he gave us a figure. It was billions of pounds to campaign. Now, somebody's given these parties these billions of pounds, and that will just be through their membership. And that's why we end up with parties with policies that don't really suit the ethos and the traditions and the history of the parties. And I think the public can see right through it now. And we don't want these globalists interfering as well, because there's another way that these parties get funded and more influence on them. And people are fed up with it. And I think what's happened is people just genuinely believe Donald Trump's not a politician and he'll do what's best because he doesn't really need any money. He's not interested in bungs. He's not interested in, getting a job with the UN or the WEF when he's no longer the president. He doesn't need to do anything. Couldn't even tell you what he's done for the last 4 years, right? He's got a few quid, doesn't care. And the reason that I can say with some confidence that a lot of political people are influenced by other people's money is very, very simple to work out. Do this. Don't take my word for it. Look at the net wealth of any world leader. The Americans are great for it. Even folk that are no leaders like that, Pelosi, she's a great example. Go and find out on Google, you'll find roughly the sums. And you'll find the value, the net value of these individuals prior to their time in office. If you want to take a president, the day before it, put in, find his net worth 10 years ago. Then figure out his net worth 4 years later. You'll be able to find out roughly how much they get paid. So let's take an example of a president. Let's say a president's net value is £5 million or dollars, right, before they get into office, and they get paid roughly £250,000 a year. They do 2 terms, they're getting paid £2 million in a year, and they need to use that money, spend that money on some things, surely, over the course of their term. But even if they didn't, and their net worth went up by £2 million when they come to the end of their term or the end of their office or the end of their career as a politician, then you can go, okay, maybe see that. But they don't. Some of them are multiplying their wealth by tenfold, and some of them by 100 and hundreds fold. So how is it possible that all these people in high positions within politics in the Western Europe, you could just do any of them, and it's not hard to do. Go and pick 3 or 4, write them down a piece of paper, and go and try and find out net wealth before they got the gig and net wealth after it. And there is very, very few where it's not multiplied by vast amounts. So that tells you that they are getting an income from somewhere. Now, that could be people giving them money. It could also be people giving them information, or them knowing that a certain business is going to get a big, massive contract with, making munitions, for example, or a tech company, because the government's just about to sign a multi-million-pound contract. What's going to happen to their share prices? They go up. Oh, dearie me, look at that. There's my net value, my net worth, trebled. And that's what's running politics. And if anybody doesn't want to have, actually accept that, then go and back on, put your head back in the sand, right? Because that's what's going on here. And it'll be going on at all levels. Scottish Parliament, Westminster, White House, Capitol building in America, and all these parliaments, including the EU, right? That's how they do it. So they turn it, what they then do is their policies become blinded by greed. And it might not just be them, it might be their friends, acquaintances, family members. And that's what we've got. And anybody that wants to dispute that with the main parties across Western Europe, you're howling at them in, right? So that's what's going on here. And people have had enough. And by the way, include media companies in that. Media companies, I'll give you an example. There were suggestions that if Kamala's mob won, then the way X is considered a business in America could change. And it could then be liable for prosecution because it would then be liable for every single word typed on its platform, right? Like a newspaper would be. But they're not, because it's not really them that's putting all the words in. So there's the liability stands majority of the time with a person like me that would write the stuff. But if they changed how they legislate and how they consider and view platforms like X, then X could end up being probably just put in the bin, because it wouldn't be worth it, right? You couldn't monitor every single tweet at every single second before it's read and before somebody takes offence to it and somebody sues X for what I write. So media play a big part in this, because media don't want new media to be successful because it'll be to the detriment of them. So they want to protect that. So what they'll do is they'll pick the parties that are most likely to help protect them. And in America's case, that's the Democrats. And there's more people in the media across Western Europe that are left of centre, and that's what, the sort of wokey stuff and all that's quite a big thing for them, and they don't just stand up and say, by the way, turning wee boys into wee girls isn't clever, right? They find that difficult to say. They should have been saying that years ago. They're just starting to do it now, things like that. And that's the sort of stuff also didn't help the Democrats. But I strongly believe, and I said the same before I was politically aware when Trump came in the first time, just, talking to pals and stuff like that, and family members, that Trump's not a politician. And this could change the world. And it didn't quite happen the last time. But this time, because of the way that he's won, he's turned a £7 million vote deficit in the popular vote to a 5 million vote positive. He spun the whole thing with 12 million votes. That's massive. Now, if that's how the Americans are feeling, you can bet your bottom dollar that's how most people in the Western world feel. Where they go, kind of fed up with this, kind of fed up with the open borders, kind of fed up with the transgender nonsense, kind of fed up with the cost of living, kind of fed up with, net zero, kind of fed up with a drive to destroy farmers. All these things don't make sense to people. And you put it all together in a big melting pot, and the trust and the opinion on politicians and political parties. That's how this happened. That's how Trump became president for the second time. And the second one, by the way, is actually a bigger jolt for the world than the first time. Because the first time he didn't get a popular vote. This time he stormed it by about 5 million. So what happens next? Well, the traditional parties in Western Europe, the Western world, need to take note and stop this nonsense that we always hear. We heard it for the SNP when they got horsed out of the Westminster seats and down from 40, 50 down to 9, right? That was a disaster for them. They came out with a saying, I'm going to tell you. The Tories done the same after 14 years of power and got lost by a landslide. They got horsed out. And the Democrats will no doubt do it as well. They'll say, we're going to listen to the voters. But they don't. The SNP have already proved that they don't. Right? They're still potty after they get annihilated at the polls. Oh, we need to listen to those that vote for you. No, you don't. You live in your bubble, right? And you just believe that everybody feels the same as you, right? And it's nonsense. And the Democrats will do the same. They'll come out in the next couple of days and they'll be like, yeah, we need to regroup and we need to listen to the constituents, or whatever they call them in America. And they won't, because they're not allowed to. They need to beg and bow to whoever is calling the shots, and the shots are called by the person that's putting the most money in. And you did all that for every political party across the whole of the Western world. It's no politics anymore. It's a front for businesses. And I hope that this rejection of traditional parties and traditional politicians continues over the next decade. Because, listen, Donald Trump's no saint, right? He's not a politician. He's a guy who uses common sense and logic and sees a problem and goes and solves it. Quite easy for him to do. Doesn't he buy into committees? He says, there's a problem, I'm going to go and fix the problem, right? That's how he does things. And guys like that, across the Western hemisphere, and the more of them we can get in politics, then the better place politics would be. It's no difficult. And the next chance we've got to do that in the United Kingdom's in 18 months, when we eventually get an election to give us a chance to remove the SNP, who've had 17 years at it here, and who do ridiculous things, absolutely bonkers things. And they tell us, oh, listen to people. No, you don't. And I hope, well, I've already told everybody I'm putting my hand up for election and that, and I hope a lot of normal, non-politician type people become politicians and put their hands up. And we get a parliament where we've got a lot of people do what's right, and they don't work with traditional parties, they don't represent traditional parties, they maybe represent new or smaller or even independent candidates. We change how politics work. And it's not difficult. The only thing that's difficult about it is getting the voters to believe it. And if they watch what happened in America last night, they should surely believe that change is possible. And it's no change of party, it's change of personality. And somebody that, in his own words, probably doesn't give a shit. Here's some problems, here's a pile of problems, I'll spend 4 years sorting them out. And he will. And I hope he's as successful with one of those things as he was in his first tenure. And that was the fact that there was not a single American soldier, life lost in a war while Donald Trump was the president. And I believe he was the first ever to do that, certainly the first in modern times. And I hope he's also the second. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe and notification button. Put your comments below, they're always good. And most importantly of all, not career politicians or traditional parties. Not you. But
everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.